You have to laugh or else you're going to scream. Honestly, I don't know which reaction is more appropriate right now, because we just watched Marjorie Taylor Greene, the self-proclaimed MAGA warrior, the woman who has spent the last few years effectively functioning as Donald Trump's personal bodyguard in Congress, go on 60 Minutes and admit, out loud, on national television, that the entire Republican Party is a sham. And I don't mean sham in the political sense. I mean she just pulled back the curtain and revealed that the Wizard of Oz is actually just a bunch of terrified guys in suits nervously checking their text messages to see if they've been purged yet. If you missed this, stop what you are doing.
Differently?
Yes.
How?
Oh, it would shock people.
Well, let's shock people.
Okay. I watched many of my colleagues go from making fun of him, making fun of how he talks, making fun of me constantly for supporting him, to when he won the primary in 2024, they all started, excuse my language, Leslie, kissing his ass and decided to put on a MAGA hat for the first time.
Greene sat down with Leslie Stahl and said, with a straight face, that her Republican colleagues, the people who stand behind Trump at the rallies, the ones wearing the red ties and the pins, mock him privately. She says they laugh at him. She describes them rolling their eyes at his speeches, cracking jokes, treating him like a senile uncle at Thanksgiving who won't stop yelling at the TV. It's almost funny, right? It validates every single thing we have suspected for years. That behind the scenes, these Ivy League educated senators know exactly what Trump is. They aren't true believers, they're actors. But then, and this is where the laughter stops and the chill sets in, she explained why they keep acting. She didn't say it's for love of country. She didn't even say it's for policy. She said they are terrified. Terrified to step out of line. Terrified of the tweet. Terrified of the base. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the woman who helped build this culture of intimidation, is now looking into the camera and telling us that the Republican Party is operating like a hostage situation. She is describing a workplace environment where grown elected officials are paralyzed by the fear that if they don't clap loud enough, they are going to get hurt.
And she would know, wouldn't she? Because the second she stepped out of line, the second she criticized the America First agenda for selling out to big donors, Trump didn't just disagree with her. He labeled her a traitor. He called her a lunatic. And immediately, like clockwork, the death threat started rolling in. She's talking about pipe bomb scares. She's talking about 700 plus threats to her office. This is the part that makes my head spin. We are watching the leopards eat her face in real time, and she is shocked that the monster she fed is now hungry for her. But put aside the schadenfreude for a second. Put aside how rich it is to hear MTG complain about divisive rhetoric. Look at what she is actually confessing. She is confirming that the GOP isn't a political party anymore. It's a fear-based cult of personality where loyalty is enforced through threats of violence. She just handed us the blueprint. She told us exactly how weak they actually are. They don't respect him, they fear him. And that distinction is everything, because fear is brittle. Fear breaks. And Greene, it looks like she just brought a sledgehammer. Let's slow down and actually look at the receipts here, because when you strip away the reality TV drama of it all, what Marjorie Taylor Greene is laying out is a forensic accounting of a political party that has completely ceased to function as a governing body. We aren't just talking about hurt feelings, we are talking about a systemic operational failure that she is documenting line by line.
First, let's dissect the mockery claim, because I don't want you to gloss over this as just petty gossip. It is much darker than that. When Greene tells Leslie Stahl that Republicans laugh at Trump, she's not describing a roast. She's describing a fundamental breach of faith with the American voter. Think about the mechanics of what she's saying. These senators and congresspeople are going back to their districts, standing on stages and telling working-class voters that Donald Trump is a genius, a savior, the only man who can fix this country. They're fundraising off that message. They're asking you to donate your hard-earned money based on that belief. And then, according to Greene, they go back to the cloakroom in D.C., close the door, and laugh about how incompetent he is. That is not just hypocrisy, that is fraud. If you sold a car knowing the engine was broken but you told the buyer it was pristine, you'd be sued. These people are selling a political product they privately believe is defective. And Greene, who, for all her faults, has always been a true believer, is looking at this cynicism and finally saying, this is a lie. She is confirming that the elites of the GOP look down on the very man the base worships. It validates every critique we've ever had about the cynical nature of the MAGA elite. They don't respect the movement, they're just riding the tiger because they're afraid to get off. And speaking of fear, let's look at the specific evidence she provides regarding the terror. This isn't abstract. She brings the receipts on exactly how the enforcement mechanism works. It starts with the label. The second Greene criticized the campaign's direction, specifically the pivot toward globalist donors, which we will get to in a second, Trump didn't engage on the merits. He didn't argue the policy. He sent her a private text message.
She describes it as extremely unkind, which is likely the understatement of the century. He called her a traitor. He called her a ranting lunatic. Now, pause. In a normal political party, being called a traitor by the leader is a harsh rebuke. In the MAGA ecosystem, traitor is a target designation. It is a green light. Greene connects the dots directly. Trump sends the text, the traitor label goes public, and immediately her life is in danger. She details the threats. Pipe bombs, death threats, 773 documented threats to her office. This is the forensic proof of the terror she mentioned earlier. The cause and effect are undeniable. The leader points the finger, and the mob mobilizes. But here is the most damning piece of character evidence she presented, and it's one that really exposes the rot at the center of this dynamic. When she and her son were facing these pipe bomb threats that were a direct downstream result of the rhetoric, did she get a call of support? Did the leader of the party check in to make sure her loyal foot soldier was safe? No. She says he showed zero sympathy. Nothing. This destroys the father figure myth that Trump cultivates. He demands absolute loyalty. He demands that you debase yourself, mock him only in private, and vote how he says. But the moment you become inconvenient, you are disposable. Greene is realizing, perhaps too late, that loyalty in this movement only flows one way, up. But if the personal betrayal is the smoke, the policy betrayal is the fire. This is the part of the interview that I think is actually the most politically damaging if people are paying attention. Greene didn't just whine about mean texts. She leveled a substantive, specific accusation that Trump has sold out the America First base to the highest bidder. She specifically cited Big Pharma. She cited global deals. She cited his new obsession with crypto buddies. This is crucial. The entire populist pitch of the MAGA movement was that Trump couldn't be bought. He was the billionaire who didn't need the donors, remember? I don't need their money, he said in 2016. Well, Greene is now holding up the ledger and saying, yes, he does. She is accusing him of abandoning the forgotten men and women of the working class to cut deals with the exact corporate elites he claims to hate. When she says he is prioritizing big donors over the movement, she is undercutting the foundational promise of his entire political existence. And look at the timing. We are seeing Trump pivot to crypto. We are seeing him cozy up to Silicon Valley billionaires. We are seeing the populism stripped away to reveal standard Reagan-era corporate tax cuts and deregulation. Greene is the one standing there pointing it out. She's saying, hey, we were supposed to be about the people, but now we're just about the portfolio. It is a devastating critique because it comes from inside the House. If a Democrat says Trump is a sellout to corporate interests, the base ignores it. When Marjorie Taylor Greene, the woman who was willing to go to the mat for him on everything, says he has abandoned America First for donor first, that is a receipt that is very hard to ignore. And don't think she's the only one noticing. We have Kevin McCarthy, the ousted speaker, a man who tried to ride the tiger and got eaten, already calling her resignation and her commentary a canary in the coal mine. That is a specific historical metaphor. Canaries die first to warn the miners that the air is toxic. McCarthy is signaling that Greene isn't an outlier. She is the first casualty of a toxic environment that is going to kill the whole party. So when you add it all up, what do we have? We have a party where the leadership privately thinks the nominee is a joke. We have a discipline structure enforced by death threats and violence. We have a leader who has abandoned his populist principles to cash in with corporate donors. And we have the most loyal lieutenants finally breaking the code of silence because the fear of staying is finally outweighing the fear of leaving. This isn't just a bad interview.
This is an autopsy report. She is showing us the organs of the party and they are failing. She is showing us that the unity is fake, the strength is actually terror, and the policy is for sale. And the wildest part is she's right. For the first time in a long time, Marjorie Taylor Greene is the most accurate narrator of the Republican reality. But here's the thing we have to understand if we want to grasp the full magnitude of this moment. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not an anomaly. She is just the latest, most high-profile victim of a psychological pattern that has defined the Republican Party for the better part of a decade. If you zoom out, if you stop looking at the day-to-day chaos and actually look at the timeline, you see a very specific, very disturbing architecture of submission. I call it the humiliation ritual. It is the price of admission for anyone who wants to survive in Donald Trump's orbit. And once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it.
Go back to 2016. Do you remember Ted Cruz? I know, it feels like a lifetime ago, but remember the lying Ted days? Donald Trump didn't just beat Ted Cruz in the primary, he humiliated him. He insulted his wife's appearance. He suggested his father was involved in the assassination of JFK. He dragged Cruz's family through the mud in a way that would make any normal person vow eternal enmity. And what happened? Cruz went to the convention, told people to vote their conscience, got booed off the stage, and then weeks later, there he was, phone banking for the man who insulted his wife. By 2024, Cruz was on stage screaming, "God bless Donald Trump." The ritual was complete. He swallowed his pride, he swallowed his dignity, and he became a foot soldier. Look at Lindsey Graham. In 2016, he called Trump a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. He said, if we nominate Trump, we will get destroyed, and we will deserve it. Those were his words. He knew exactly what he was dealing with. But the moment Trump took power, Graham didn't fight. He folded. He became the golf buddy. He became the guy on Fox News weeping for Trump. The critic didn't just surrender, he was erased. And then, of course, there's the crown jewel of the humiliation ritual, J.D. Vance. The man who once privately wondered if Trump was America's Hitler is now the vice president. He went from calling Trump noxious and reprehensible to reinventing his entire biography to serve the MAGA narrative. This is the system. It is a machine designed to take critics, break them down through public bullying and private pressure, and rebuild them as loyalists. It's not just about winning votes, it's about demonstrating dominance. The more you humiliate someone, the more loyal they eventually become because they have burned every bridge back to their old selves. They have to stay because they have nowhere else to go. But here is why Marjorie Taylor Greene is a glitch in the matrix. Here is why her defection is causing the system to overheat. Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, J.D. Vance, they all started as critics. The system knew how to handle them, break them, then own them. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she didn't need to be broken. She was born in the fire. She was MAGA because she was even in Congress. She was the true believer. She was the one who didn't need the ritual because she was already worshiping at the altar. So when she turns, when the person who is the most loyal, the most vocal, the most aggressive defender of the movement suddenly says, wait a minute, this is a scam, the system doesn't know what to do. The machine isn't built for the loyalist who wakes up. It's only built for the critic who falls asleep. And that is why the retaliation against her is so much more violent, so much more visceral than what we saw with the others. When Cruz defied Trump, he got mean tweets. When Greene defied Trump, she got pipe bomb trats. The difference in response tells you everything about the level of panic inside Mar-a-Lago. They can handle an ever-Trumper. They can handle a Democrat, but they cannot handle a disillusioned fanatic because a disillusioned fanatic is the only person who can actually deprogram the base. Greene is dangerous to them because she speaks the language, she knows the codes. When she says Trump is selling out to globalist donors and crypto buddies, she isn't using MSNBC talking points. She is using MAGA talking points against MAGA. She is effectively saying, I am the real America first, he is the imposter.
This is why Kevin McCarthy called her the canary in the coal mine. He wasn't being poetic, he was being practical. He knows that if the party starts losing the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, if the true believers start realizing they are being mocked by the elites they put in power, the coalition fractures. You can't run a populist movement if the populists realize the leader is a corporate sellout. And look at the company she is now keeping in the exiled column. It used to be just the Liz Cheneys and the Adam Kinzingers, people the base could easily dismiss as RINOs. But now the tent is shrinking so fast that even the diehards are finding themselves on the outside. The purity tests have become so extreme, the demand for total submission so high, that eventually everyone fails. We are watching a political party cannibalize itself. It started by purging the moderates. Then it purged the conservatives. Now it is purging the loyalists. And the only thing left, the only thing remaining in the center of that shrinking circle, a terrified group of men in suits, laughing nervously in private, praying they're not the next ones to get a text message calling them a traitor. So where does this leave us? If we accept everything Marjorie Taylor Greene has laid out, the private mockery, the public terror, the donor sellouts, the threats of violence, we have to ask the question that nobody in the Republican Party is willing to answer. What happens next? Because if you think this is just a story about one congresswoman getting ousted from the inner circle, you are missing the forest for the burning trees. We are looking at the endgame of a political movement that has decided democracy is an inconvenience and fear is a legitimate governing strategy.
Let's be deadly serious about the stakes here. We are no longer talking about partisan gridlock. We are talking about a captured legislature. Think about the implications of Greene's admission that her colleagues are terrified. If a member of Congress is casting a vote, not because they believe it helps their constituents, not because they think it's constitutional, but because they are afraid that voting the other way will result in a pipe bomb showing up at their house, we do not have a Congress. We have a hostage situation. This is the Rubicon we have crossed. In a functioning republic, legislators fear being voted out of office. That is the accountability mechanism. In the MAGA iteration of the GOP, legislators fear for their lives. That is the authoritarian mechanism. When fear becomes the primary driver of legislative behavior, the guardrails are gone. You can pass anything, justify anything, and excuse anything if the alternative is becoming a target. And don't tell me I'm being dramatic. Greene just told us on national television that this is the calculus they are making right now. And what happens to the country when the people in charge are ruled by fear? We know the answer. We are watching it happen. The America First agenda that Greene claims has been abandoned wasn't just dropped by accident, it was traded away. This is the other half of the nightmare scenario. While the base is kept angry with culture wars and retribution rhetoric, the actual policy machinery is being handed over to the highest bidder.
Greene's expose on the big pharma and crypto buddy connections reveals the bait and switch at the heart of the modern GOP. They use the rhetoric of the working class to win power, but they use the power to serve the oligarchy. And because the party is disciplined by terror, no one can point out the contradiction. If you say, hey, maybe we shouldn't give another tax break to a crypto billionaire while our voters are struggling, you get the traitor text, you get the threats. So you shut up, you vote yes, and the scam continues. This is the future they are building, a party where the populism is a costume and the policy is pure corporatism, enforced by a mob that will threaten anyone who points out the emperor is naked. It is the worst of both worlds, the chaos of a revolution with the corruption of a kleptocracy. And let's talk about the violence. We have become so desensitized to it that we gloss over the part where a sitting congresswoman mentions 773 death threats like she's reading a grocery list. We cannot normalize this. We cannot let this become just part of the job. When political violence moves from the fringe to the mainstream, when it becomes the standard tool for enforcing party discipline, we are in very dangerous territory. Greene's expose confirms that the violence isn't a bug in the system, it is a feature. It is the immune system of the MAGA movement attacking anything that looks like dissent. And if they are willing to turn that weapon on Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of their own, a woman who bled for this movement, do you think they will hesitate to turn it on anyone else? Do you think moderate Republicans are safe? Do you think Democrats are safe? Do you think you are safe?
The silence of the GOP leadership in face of these threats is arguably more terrifying than the threats themselves. By saying nothing, by offering zero sympathy to Greene, they are effectively sanctioning the behavior. They are telling the mob, good job, keep it up. They are signaling that violence is an acceptable response to political disagreement. And once you let that genie out of the bottle, you cannot put it back in. You're creating a generation of political actors who believe that force is a legitimate shortcut to power. So what is the endgame? If this trajectory continues, we are looking at the total hollowing out of the American conservative movement. It will cease to be a political party in any meaningful sense and will fully transform into a personal protection racket for one man and his donors. The mockery that Greene describes will stop, not because they suddenly respect him, but because the ones who mock him will be purged. The fear will stop being a bug and become the rule of law. We're already seeing the exodus. The Kevin McCarthys, the Ken Bucks, the Mike Gallaghers, they are heading for the exits because they see the writing on the wall. They know that you cannot govern inside a burning building. And as they leave, the concentration of extremism gets denser, the echo chamber gets louder, the purity tests get harder. And for the rest of us, for those of us who believe in democracy, who believe in the rule of law, who believe that politics should be about debate and not death threats, we have to wake up. We have to stop treating this like normal politics. We have to stop analyzing strategy and start analyzing survival.
Because Marjorie Taylor Greene just gave us the gift of clarity. She stripped away the spin and showed us the raw, ugly reality of what the Republican Party has become. She showed us the fear in the eyes of the senators. She showed us the cynicism of the deals. She showed us the violence waiting in the wings. We cannot say we weren't warned. We cannot say we didn't know. The call is coming from inside the house. The canary in the coal mine just fell off the perch and screamed on national television. The question now isn't what Trump will do, we know what he will do. The question isn't what the GOP will do, we know they are too terrified to do anything. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to accept a political reality where traitors are hunted and fear is the currency of the realm? Or are we going to look at this wreckage and say, enough? History is watching. The receipts are in. The mask is off. And frankly, if this doesn't scare the hell out of you, you aren't paying attention. This is Ethan Cole. Don't just watch the news, read the warning signs. Because the next time, there might not be anyone left to sound the alarm.